we'll only be able to communicate through the chat today, and that is completely fine. Okay, next up we've got Rob from Centre for London. So Rob, over to you.
Thanks, Hattie. Hello, everyone. Really brilliant to be here with you. It's a real privilege and pleasure. I'm going to try and stick to 5 minutes. Do interrupt me if I don't. I've scripted this so that it hopefully sticks to it, so bear with me a little. So I'm Director of Strategic Projects at Centre for London. We're a think tank. We research big issues facing London, convene big debates and conversations about them. So we try and come up with ideas and policies that tackle the big challenges that we all face. We're politically neutral. We're always transparent with our funding. So we basically don't back anyone's agenda. We're just trying to make the city better. I run a project looking at a big new vision for the city overall, working with all the kind of key organisations. And I also lead on transport and environment/climate emergency things. We're doing various bits of research at the moment, including on micromobility. So that's a new term meaning bikes, scooters, e-bikes, cargo bikes. We're also looking into, in a deep way, the freight and delivery system in London, which is often not spoken about enough in the kind of decarbonising transport conversation. So, transport and climate. Why do we need to talk about it? Well, first, obviously, there's a climate crisis. It's official. Okay, we have to act. And we know, as we've just heard, transport accounts for a lot of emissions, about 1/4 of emissions in London, and that this figure's not budging, unlike in other areas. And we also know that the energy delivery system is greening fast. So that means electricity is getting greener and greener every day. It's rapidly shifting from burning coal and gas and using nuclear, wind and solar power. They're all much greener, so we need to think about electricity a lot. One of the problems with transport is typically we personally want all the freedom to use whatever we want when we want it. But we kind of want everyone else to change their behaviour. Okay, we see traffic as other people causing traffic, but actually, using my favourite phrase of recent times, I am traffic. Okay, my choices provoke traffic. We are all traffic. My choice of how I get around and how the things I need, think about that, to get to me, determine in traffic levels. So therefore also our contribution to air pollution, greenhouse gas congestion. I hope that makes sense. So what can we do, okay, personally and to encourage others to do? Firstly, we can move ourselves around less. Simple. The pandemic has been a very forced experiment in doing this. But we know in normal times, this isn't always an option, and it can have some pretty poor consequences, both personally and collectively. Basically, moving around gives us huge benefits for work, for family life, for romance, for fun, okay? So we don't really want to curtail it. So if we can't avoid traveling around, what else might we do? So we might be able to shift to better options. So if we put the petrol and diesel car that we're used to at the bottom of our options, what should be at the top? Well, as we've just heard, best for us and everyone else is something active. So walking, running, cycling, brilliant. Improves health, has very limited negative consequences for other people. It doesn't take up too much space, it isn't too annoying, and it doesn't generate pollution. Great for short trips. So if that's not an option, we should look at other options that are small or public. So use an e-bike, an e-scooter, an electric moped maybe. They're pretty good. Or use public transport. Or, smartly, some combination of these things, a folding bike on a bus. And if these aren't options, look for something shared and electric. A car club like Zipcar, increasingly electric, or an electric shared taxi like you can just about get through, say, Uber Pool, Uber Green, some of those offering. Or buddy up with a friend or colleague. Much worse is a taxi. So black cabs, Ubers, minicabs, because these vehicles, even the best of them, they spend a lot of time empty, both getting to the place they want to serve and looking for new passengers. So that's passenger travel, my kind of quick take on that. And that gets the headlines. But how we move things around too matters a lot. Okay, think about products. And also, you know, plumbers with their kit, that kind of thing. If you're someone who needs to move stuff around, like a plumber, then pretty much everything we've said about passenger travel applies. I'm not saying it's easy, but it might be possible, and there are plumbers that do this, that do all their business on a cargo bike, for example. But for the rest of us, we need to start seeing the traffic, air quality and carbon implications of the choices we make. So take a really big example at the moment is in deliveries. If current trends persist, there will be 1 billion parcel deliveries in London every year by 2030. 1 billion. Every time we order something to be delivered on our doorstep, we create traffic. So we need to explore options for doing it a bit differently, picking up stuff from the high street more, ordering less, maybe grouping stuff together. And where we have no alternative, we need to look for firms that are trying out greener alternatives like e-cargo bikes for doing that last bit of the delivery. That gives us, as we've already heard, not just lower carbon emissions, but also nicer, safer streets and cleaner air. And we should support policies that get everyone else moving in this direction too, including the vast logistics fleets that get food to the supermarkets, goods in the shops, or shift our waste around. I hope that's given you a bit of a flavour of how we can make this personal. Thanks.
Thanks.